Well, hello again. This was my attempt of turning a Blade CP Pro fully brushless. Use the E-Hacker motor up front here. Maybe you can see a little better. Use the E-Hacker motor to show you how little power these things actually need to run, and it runs fine. The power cords I'm using are actually servo extension cables, which give me a lot to put down and put them through the ferrite choke to knock out all the noise that the thing makes all the time their speed controllers make. You use your standard Eflight control receiver. You take out the 3-in-1, just remove it. 1300 mil battery pack I got off eBay. Dean's connectors are a must because you're passing a good bit of current, much less when you're running a brushless motor in the back. Seems to take a good bit of power too. As far as the brushless goes, there's the G90 gyro mounted there. I very carefully, I don't know why they mount these things and put these raw pins straight out on these things. They should have put them down the side, but I'm very careful. I bend these 90 degrees so that my plugs can go on from that direction and being out, not sticking clean out in here. Run it down. Everything's just zip tied. There's a Thunder's. There's the speed controller, Castle Creations Thunderbird, 9 amps constant. Just come back, I think it's 12 by 30 brushless motor, Mushak, I believe is the company name that makes these things. Again, it came from eBay. A 3x2 push-on GWS propeller. Had to just lightly increase the bore of the hole, but after that it pushed right on. When I first did this, as you can, I don't know if you can see the what I used the standard E-Flight hardware. I removed the motor, cut the bearing support away, which left me like a C-clamp looking. Can you see the two blacks coming toward each other there? Okay, that turned into like a C-clamp. Dremel tool, I cut the inner part out to where the motor would go in and mount like in there and screw in through this side. Took that out, and then what I had when I was done, I just had a mount that sat there like this. I bored down through here with the Dremel, slip one zip tie. There's no wires in the boom anymore, so I can get away with putting a hoop right through. And when I zip tie her shut, it squeezed the motor right into place for me. And at first I was running it screwed in direct replacement, and the boom and the bearing housing was making it howl. There was a lot of wind shear. By going this way, I'm halfway out. I added over a half an inch, maybe an inch to the distance. So much quieter, much more efficient because you're not, the fan's getting clean air, and the motor runs cooler. And these are just E-Flight heat sinks with a drop of super glue. By the way, I also put, there's super glue, just good old generic CA down in here around the motor. After I got everything zip tied in place, I just put a drop on and let it run around on its own. But except for that, it all flies pretty well. One of the other tricks is, where's the remote here? Hang on one second. When you internalize it, I've watched a lot. I found this out when you're using. Now this is using the E-Flight remote, buddy. This ain't using a DX7 or any other mixing remote. The gyro, the G90 gyro, is doing all the work. You cannot do this without a head-locking gyro. Okay. I watch a lot of people, their helichopper sitting on the floor, and when they're arming up, you can tell by when it fires up that they're going full right to get zero power or signal back to the thing so it will arm. When you do that, I've found on the experiments here, well, now if you had a mixing radio, this would not be an issue. But if you're wanting to use just your E-Flight radio that came with your chopper, your trim will end up so far over to this side you'll drift, you'll never be able to center up. So what you do is you leave your trim over here, and you can push it off the peg a little bit, okay? But all you have to do is pick up the chopper and turn it. And when you do, that's after the gyro has turned blue, by the way, and internalized, that will put a zero signal out to the speed controller, and it will arm without you moving the joystick. Now, the fan will start to run nice and slow, nothing insane. You can then slide your centering up to about half. You'll see that the tail fan will pick up speed and run, which I'm going to do a small demo for you here in just 1 second. And then when you fly, your trim will be out in the center. Something about pulling it down here I don't care where you set this. When you do this to arm the speed controller, it's irrelevant. The little sucker goes to one side and plops down and sits. Give me 1 second here, and I'll fire it up and show you. Okay, here we go. We're in the basement. All right, like I say, your standard Eflight 6-channel remote. You set the trim down all the way to the, usually I set it almost dead all the way to the left. Arm the chopper. Both speed controllers come up to tell me they got power, but you're waiting on the gyro, okay? You gotta wait, okay, you got a blue light on the gyro. Now, normally a lot of guys would push the control all the way to the left, and that would arm the speed controller. But when it does, it's gonna arm it too fast. And the trim will never come out. All you do is you pick the chopper up. There she is, she's armed. Don't turn it back the other way, it makes it mad. But then you'll be able to bring it up to speed, and your trim will work. See, it's not running fast enough. But by moving the motor farther from the tail, I don't know if you can see that or not, it's hovering in here right now. By moving the motor farther from the tail, the motor keeps running, by the way. So this is kind of a dangerous point about this thing for smaller kids being around. This won't usually shut down. You can push the trim over sometimes and kill it, but if you arm it that way by turning the chopper, your trim will come out when you're hovering almost dead center every time. As far as gyro setting goes, I'm using the G90 gyro. About 11 o'clock would be a good place to start on your remote if you're using channel 5. I've never messed with the screw in the back because I change it too much when I'm flying and experiment with these things. But you want to start, if you're using the knob here, you probably want to start around 11 o'clock or anything lower than that, like if you start heading for 10 or 9 o'clock position. When you get it out there, you can get, these things are so reactive that you'll get so much of the tail waggle that it's possible to crash it. I mean, it will start, I mean, you'll get travel like this with it, and then, I mean, oscillations like you can't even believe. But they share the Dean's plug, and like I say, you can see the battery. Nothing fancy, but it's so far so good. I mean, there you go, guys. Good luck. Like I say, the propeller's GWS. This was the hardest thing I had to match up to find the right one that balanced out into the mixture and everything. But there's 3x2, 3 inches across, 2 inches in pitch. You guys all take